So we're now joined by Cosatu Parliamentary Coordinator Matthew Parks, and he joins us via our video line. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Of course, we've seen that you as Cosatu have indeed welcomed this decision to implement the two-pot retirement system. But, there are criticisms that, government is not yet ready to implement this. And you also admit that there's still needs to be a lot of work that needs to be done to actually finalize this new retirement two-pot system.
Yeah. Look, good evening. Thank you for having us. Look, we're very happy as Cosatu that Parliament yesterday stood with workers in defence of the two-pot regime proposals for next year. We're very happy that Parliament responded positively to Cosatu's call for the 1st of March 2024 implementation date to be defended, to be retained. We appreciate the issues that government is raising, that industry is raising. We don't underestimate there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But they must also be a little bit fair and a little bit honest. We had not started this discussion today or yesterday or last week. We haven't even started it last year. We first tabled these proposals as Cosatu to Parliament in May 2020. We've had discussions with Treasury since that time. In 2021, the Minister of Finance then, Tito Mboweni, made a solemn commitment to Parliament in his budget speech. This will happen in 2022. We had a commitment last year that this will happen by 2024. So we've had many, many agreements. So we're just simply asking for Treasury, let's honor these agreements for once. Workers are drowning in debt, not because they're reckless, but because the economy is struggling. We have a high unemployment rate. We have workers drowning in debt because they have not received wage increases for some time. Their support relatives were struggling. And I think what's very positive is that let's leave aside our fights. But we have very positively, for the first time on a big issue like this, a common agreement between government and business and labour that this is a good system. It's going to give relief to millions of workers. It's going to help avoid workers resigning from work and cashing out their entire pension funds. It's going to preserve more of the pensions for when workers retire so they can avoid retiring in poverty. All we're asking now is that let's make sure this thing happens by March next year. Yes, it's tight. But we're very positive because yesterday the Standing Committee of Finance in the National Assembly has adopted the bills. There is a date for the National Assembly to pass the bills in the first week of December. We will be presenting to the Select Committee of Finance and the National Council of Provinces on Wednesday next week on these bills. And again, there's a date for the NCP Select Committee to adopt the bills and for the NCP to pass them before Parliament rises on the 9th of December. We will be working with the Presidency, with SARS, with Treasury, and with the pension funds to make sure that all systems are put in place. People must work over Christmas. We don't think government or industry should be focusing on Christmas holidays when workers are drowning in debt. Let's for once show some solidarity for the poorest of the poor, and let's really make sure that we help workers who are just struggling. So yes, it's tight, but we don't think complacency or lethargy or inertia is acceptable when workers are struggling.
And Matthew, I understand, and you've outlined that government has a lot of time to deal with this, and you are saying that this proposal came as early as 2020. But why not implement something that has been fine-tuned? I mean, and just give it a bit more time, because this is someone's retirement here in which we're talking about.
Yeah. So look, there's no legislative uncertainty. We have a bill. We're not proposing any more changes to it. We're accepting the compromises, and everybody's made compromises. Government has made compromises. Industry too has been forced to make compromises. And as Labour, we've also made many compromises. So the legislative certainty is there. It's now just simply a question for Parliament to pass it. That's not a complicated issue. We have dates. So that's a question of just actioning. It's not difficult for the President to sign it, and we'll be engaging with him to do so. Treasury just has to do a promulgation. That literally is just a matter of publishing something in the Government Gazette. That's literally a day's work. SARS, we don't think they're going to have much to stress about.
Yeah.
Because SARS has already got a very limited tax capacity. They already do pro rata tax deduction and calculations based upon when you start your job, when you resign.
Yeah, and I wanted to come to that because I know that a number of those in the finance sector have raised these concerns, especially when it comes to how this will be handled, especially when it comes to how workers will be charged by SARS.
Yeah. So look, basically two things. So already when you leave your job, when you resign and cash out a pension fund, you are taxed. You receive a tax incentive when you contribute to your pension fund as a way of incentivizing you. And if you do cash out prematurely, basically you pay back the tax incentive you received. So that's already been there. No one likes taxes. I don't think there's anybody in the world who likes taxes, even probably as officials. That's fine. That's part of the course. And we have confidence in SARS. SARS is a very well-run, efficient institution. They can make it happen. They have said, look, it's going to be a bit of a push for them, but they can do so, and we think they can do so. They're used to doing pro-rata tax calculations all the time. There's no different than that. But the tax rate will be basically linked to your personal income tax rate. So that will benefit low-income workers. It will be a little bit of a pinch for high-income earners, but that's fine. That can be managed. There is a bit of work for the pension funds to do, but we've been heartened by the very positive support we've received from some of the largest pension funds who already from last year have said they're ready to go. They've been doing some of the work for education with their members. But yes, look, we appreciate it is a lot of work. We would have loved this thing to have happened earlier. But again, we are where we are. And I think the most important thing to remember is that this is about workers. It's not about indulging pension funds and the holiday plans. It's not about making life simple for government officials. It's about clothing workers. It's about teachers. It's about nurses. It's about cleaning workers and bus drivers. They are struggling. It is our obligation to make sure we make life a little bit easier for them, given how difficult life is for many workers. And I think all of us can afford to put a little bit more effort. As Cosatu, we're working flat out to make sure this happens. And I think we hope and we trust, we are confident government will assist us. We're confident Parliament will continue to rally around workers. And we're hopeful, we're calling upon industry too, let them make their contribution. And industry also needs to be a little bit fair because there's a compromise here. Workers will, in essence, will get immediate relief next year, basically about the size of a 13th check. They'll be getting basically an equivalent relief each year, or similar to about a 13th check or Christmas bonus. In exchange, the preservation rate will be increasing significantly. People will not be cashing out the pension funds when they change jobs or they want to resign. So there's a compromise. So what we think is very fair because the industry is going to be benefiting with a significant boost in preservation rates. They should then compromise by making sure we give that relief to workers. And after all, this money belongs not to pension funds, doesn't belong to government, it belongs to workers, and workers ultimately are responsible for their money, and ultimately these are mothers and fathers, and we must be assisting them to help them take care of their children.
What has been the response from some of your members when it comes to this, being implemented come March 2024? I mean, you speak a lot about inflation and you speak a lot about the cost of living and how many workers are struggling. What has been their response when it comes to this two-pot retirement system?
Workers are anxious, whether workers are in the public sector or the private sector, they're looking forward to it. This is one of the most popular legislation we've seen in years. It's very, very popular with workers. Not because workers are reckless, not because workers want to cash out and go on holiday. They just simply want to pay medical bills, they want to pay bank loans, short-term credit card debt, they want to take care of medical bills, fix the house, fix the car. So they're looking forward to it. Workers have been frustrated because we've been discussing this thing since 2020. We appreciate, being involved in parliamentary work. Legislation by its nature doesn't happen overnight. On average, it takes about 5 years for bills to become into law. And there's a reason for that. So you don't rush issues, etc. But workers are really struggling, so they're looking forward to it. I don't think a day will pass in my life where I don't get at least 10 messages from workers who I don't even know, who are just simply saying, Cosatu, how far are we? Can we keep pushing? Yeah. We're keen to see this thing happening. We explained we had to make tough compromises around the negotiation with Treasury on it and Parliament. We didn't get everything we want, and that's the nature of negotiations. But workers have understood that. We didn't want a cap of 30,000 Rand for the immediate relief. We wanted higher. But we've compromised because that's part of negotiations, a give and take, and let's see how ultimately we can give that support to workers.
Mr. Parks, thank you so much for your time here in SABC News.